Today, we're going to make your Spanish sound more like a real story and less like a list of events wearing a fake mustache. The big idea is simple. Advanced storytelling in Spanish often feels smooth because small connector words guide the listener through contrast, time, sequence, and hidden emotion. And today we'll focus on 5 especially useful ones: aunque, mientras, en cuanto, apenas, and sin que. These are not just grammar decorations. They are traffic signals for your story. They tell the listener, wait, here comes a contrast. Or, this happened at the same time. Or this happened the very second something else happened. Or something happened so quickly it almost crashed into the next thing. Or something happened without another thing happening. Once you control these, your Spanish starts flowing. Let's begin with aunque. Aunque means although or even though. It introduces contrast. One thing is true, but another thing also happens. Listen, aunque estaba cansado, seguí escuchando. Although I was tired, I kept listening. The emotional power here is great, because aunque creates tension immediately. Something could have stopped the action, but it didn't. How do you say, although I was tired, I kept listening in Spanish? Aunque estaba cansado, seguí escuchando. Aunque estaba cansado, seguí escuchando. Notice how natural that sounds. You don't need to over-explain. Aunque does the heavy lifting. A good memory trick. Aunque is the little bridge between obstacle and action. Although this happened, that still happened. Try a few in your head. Aunque llovía, salí. Although it was raining, I went out. Aunque no quería hablar, llamó. Although he didn't want to talk, he called. Very compact, very elegant. Now a quick side note. After aunque, Spanish can use either the indicative or the subjunctive, depending on whether the speaker sees the information as real, known, or more hypothetical. But for today, keep it practical. If you're describing what really happened in a story, you'll often hear the indicative. Aunque estaba cansado, aunque llovía. Keep it grounded in real events, and your storytelling will already sound strong. Now let's move to mientras. Mientras means while. It lets 2 actions live on screen at the same time. It's wonderful for building atmosphere. Listen, mientras caminaba, recordé tu mensaje. While I was walking, I remembered your message. That instantly feels more cinematic than just saying, caminaba y recordé. Mientras creates a moving background. How do you say, while I was walking, I remembered your message in Spanish? Mientras caminaba, recordé tu mensaje. Mientras caminaba, recordé tu mensaje. A useful pattern tip. Mientras often pairs beautifully with an ongoing action. Very often in the imperfect, like caminaba, miraba, pensaba, escuchaba. Why? Because it paints the scene. It's the camera panning across the moment. Then another action can arrive and change the scene. Listen to the rhythm. Mientras esperaba el autobús, vi a un viejo amigo. While I was waiting for the bus, I saw an old friend. Mientras preparaba la cena, sonó la alarma. While I was making dinner, the alarm went off. Smooth, layered, alive. How do you say while she was reading, I made coffee, in Spanish? Mientras leía, preparé café. Mientras leía, preparé café. Nice. And a tiny detour. In Spanish, café can mean coffee. And if you say preparé café, that's very natural for I made coffee. You do not need to translate make word for word from English every time. Spanish likes its own shortcuts. Next, en cuanto. This one is gold. En cuanto means as soon as. It's excellent for sequence. One action finishes, and the next one jumps in immediately. Listen. En cuanto llegué a casa, preparé té. As soon as I got home, I made tea. How do you say, as soon as I got home, I made tea, in Spanish? En cuanto llegué a casa, preparé té. En cuanto llegué a casa, preparé té. If aunque is contrast, en cuanto is a trigger. Think of it like a domino. First tile falls, second tile follows. En cuanto terminó la reunión, salí. As soon as the meeting ended, I left. En cuanto lo vi, lo entendí todo. As soon as I saw him, I understood everything. There's also a subtle style benefit here. Instead of using y luego, y luego, y luego, which can make a story sound childish or flat, en cuanto gives cleaner structure. It sounds intentional. How do you say, as soon as she heard the news, she smiled? In Spanish. En cuanto oyó la noticia, sonrió. En cuanto oyó la noticia, sonrió. Perfect. Now, oyó comes from oír, to hear. You may also hear escuchó in some contexts, but oír la noticia feels especially direct. She heard the news. Now let's make things more dramatic with apenas. Apenas can mean barely, hardly, or just as in the sense of almost immediately after. In stories, apenas often gives a feeling of suddenness. Listen. Apenas me senté cuando sonó el teléfono. I barely sat down when the phone rang. How do you say I barely sat down when the phone rang in Spanish? Apenas me senté cuando sonó el teléfono. Apenas me senté cuando sonó el teléfono. That has movement, right? It feels like the universe refused to give you even 5 seconds of peace. Apenas is wonderful for that. Apenas abrió la puerta, empezó a llorar. Barely had she opened the door when she started crying. Apenas cerré los ojos, sonó la alarma. I had barely closed my eyes when the alarm rang. Tragic, very relatable. A small memory aid, en cuanto and apenas, can both connect actions closely in time, but apenas often feels tighter, more abrupt, more dramatic. En cuanto is clean sequence. Apenas is almost ambush. Now our last connector, sin que. This one is extremely useful for elegant storytelling. It means without tinging, but in Spanish it often works literally as without that something happen. Listen, se fue sin que nadie lo notara. He left without anyone noticing. How do you say he left without anyone noticing in Spanish? Se fue sin que nadie lo notara. Se fue sin que nadie lo notara. This structure matters because English often uses without plus an ing form, but Spanish frequently prefers sin que plus a verb. And here comes an important practical point. After sin que, you normally use the subjunctive. Don't panic. You don't need a grammar speech with fireworks. Just remember the chunk sin que plus subjunctive. Sin que nadie lo notara. Sin que me vieran. Sin que lo supieras. How do you say she opened the window without waking the baby in Spanish? Abrió la ventana sin que se despertara el bebé. Abrió la ventana sin que se despertara el bebé. Very nice. And a brief side note. Se despertara means woke up. Literally, that the baby woke up. Spanish often prefers that structure instead of directly saying wake the baby in the same way English does. Now let's put the 5 connectors together so they become a storytelling toolkit. Aunque gives contrast. Aunque estaba nervioso, entró. Although he was nervous, he went in. Mientras gives background and simultaneity. Mientras todos hablaban, ella observaba en silencio. While everyone was talking, she watched in silence. En cuanto gives immediate sequence. En cuanto terminó la canción, aplaudieron. As soon as the song ended, they applauded. Apenas gives suddenness, almost instant collision. Apenas salió, empezó a nevar. Barely had he gone outside when it started snowing. Sinte gives absence, hidden action, or something that did not happen. Se marchó sin que nadie lo siguiera. He left without anyone following him. Now listen to how much more natural and organized a story sounds when you use these. First, I'll give you a plain version in English style. I was tired. I kept walking. I got home. I made tea. I sat down. The phone rang. That communicates information, yes, but it doesn't breathe. Now in richer Spanish. Aunque estaba cansado, seguí caminando. En cuanto llegué a casa, preparé té. Apenas me senté, sonó el teléfono. That is already a real narrative line. Let's build a short story together. I'll say the meaning in English, and you see if the connector comes to mind. Although she was angry, she answered calmly. That's aunque. Aunque estaba enfadada, respondió con calma. While we were waiting, the lights went out. That's mientras. Mientras esperábamos, se apagaron las luces. As soon as he saw the letter, he understood everything. That's en cuanto. En cuanto vio la carta, lo entendió todo. He barely opened the message when he regretted it. That's apenas. Apenas abrió el mensaje, se arrepintió. They left without anyone seeing them. That's sin que. Se fueron sin que nadie los viera. Now let's talk about common mistakes, because advanced learners often make very predictable ones, which is good news, because predictable mistakes are fixable. Mistake 1. Overusing y luego. If every event is y luego this, y luego that, your story moves, but it sounds flat. Replace some of those with en cuanto, apenas, mientras, and aunque. Mistake 2. Using mientras for every time relationship. Mientras is for overlap, for actions happening during the same period. If one action triggers another, en cuanto may be better. Mistake 3. Forgetting the emotional flavor. Apenas is not just another time word. It often adds urgency or dramatic closeness. Use it when the second event feels almost immediate. Mistake 4. After sin que, using a regular factual form instead of the subjunctive. Keep the chunk in your ear. Aunque estaba nervioso, hablé con claridad. Aunque estaba nervioso, hablé con claridad. Aunque estaba nervioso, hablé con claridad. How do you say, while they were laughing, I stayed quiet, in Spanish? Mientras se reían, me quedé callado. Mientras se reían, me quedé callado. How do you say, as soon as the train arrived, we got on, in Spanish? En cuanto llegó el tren, subimos. En cuanto llegó el tren, subimos. How do you say, I had barely closed the door when I remembered the keys, in Spanish? Apenas cerré la puerta cuando recordé las llaves. Apenas cerré la puerta cuando recordé las llaves. ¿Cómo se dice, she left without me noticing? En español? Se fue sin que lo notara. Se fue sin que lo notara. Excellent. And yes, in real conversation you might also hear se fue sin que me diera cuenta. She left without me realizing it. That is another very natural option. It's a nice reminder that Spanish often offers more than one elegant path. Here's your compact memory map before we finish. Aunque, obstacle plus action. Mientras, background at the same time. En cuanto, one thing triggers the next. Apenas, almost immediate, dramatic timing. Sin que, something happens without something else happening, and usually with the subjunctive. If you want to sound more natural in longer speech, don't just memorize isolated connectors, attach them to mini-scenes. Aunque estaba cansado, mientras caminaba, en cuanto llegué, apenas me senté, sin que nadie lo notara. These little chunks are like pre-built story pieces you can grab in real time. And the best part is this. You do not need 20 fancy connectors to sound advanced. You need a few powerful ones that you can actually use with confidence. These 5 already give you contrast, atmosphere, timing, surprise, and subtlety. That's a lot of storytelling muscle. So if today felt a little advanced, good. That means you're stretching. And if some of these forms still feel slightly slippery, also good. Real fluency grows from hearing the same patterns in meaningful stories until they stop feeling like grammar and start feeling like instinct. Keep listening for them. Keep using them. Build one richer sentence at a time. Aunque sea poco a poco, avanzas. Even if it's little by little, you're moving forward. And that, honestly, is exactly how great storytelling works too.